Coast here, so she's up early also. I know those. And so, yeah, I guess it's time to go. Now, is this hour a strict limit, or shall we?
Maybe you can. Maybe you can talk for around 45 minutes or so. Then we can have a round of discussion, if it suits you.
Okay. Well, maybe even a little shorter, right? I don't know.
Yeah, as you wish, sir. As you wish. It's absolutely up to you.
Have some things to read, and I will tell a few stories, I suppose. Okay.
Yeah.
Set up at your place. Yeah.
Maybe we'll start in a couple of minutes. It's okay, ma'am, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay. Because 19, we can expect some more people, I think,
Yeah, they will join. So shall we start, sir?
Just 2 minutes. Sir.
Okay.
Fine. Some more people will know.
Those who want to join, they can join program progresses. Okay, I will just start with a brief introduction from my end, and then you can take over.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is as far as our eminent speaker is concerned, a very good morning to you, sir, because we are both placed at two different ends of the world. So, as usual, this webinar series is more poised to cover diverse and more interesting areas of discourse related to Sri Narayana Guru. And as such, today we have a very eminent speaker, Shri.Scott Teitsworth. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, because we Indians have an accent problem. So that may not suit the way your name is actually pronounced. So we have a very eminent speaker, Shri.Scott Teitsworth, and he, in fact, has distinguished himself as one of the most prominent disciples of Sri Guru Nitya Chaitanya Yati. And he has, if I'm not wrong, he has devoted his life, a major part of that, towards studying Guru's works, and also in turn studying the work and ideals of Sri Narayana Guru. So it is indeed our pleasure and ultimate privilege to have such an eminent speaker in the webinar series, which we have titled as Sri Narayana Guru's Vision on Sanatana Dharma, a message of unity, equity, and spiritual awakening. And today will be a very, very interesting session. I know for many of my co-panelists, as well as those who have joined today, the timing is a bit odd, simply because of the time differential in which Shri.Scott is placed and we at the other end in India are placed. So without much ado, let me welcome Shri.Scott to this program. And further, let me welcome all the panelists who have joined today, as well as all the listeners and discussants who have joined from various parts of Kerala and the country as such. So I welcome each and every one of you. And before I hand over the floor to Shri.Scott, let me welcome and request my colleague, Dr. Yati Jaljakumari, Regional Director, IGNOR Regional Center, Aizon, to introduce our very eminent speaker to the audience. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Indeed, actually, it is our privilege to have such a very experienced, a well-versed international speaker for this webinar series. Mr. Scott Teitsworth. I think he is the most experienced person to speak on Guru, because his collaboration with Narayana Guru and his dedication with the Indian philosophy is almost of 55 years. Today, the 6th day of our webinar series, international webinar series, Sri Narayana Guru's Vision on Sanatana Dharma, a message of unity, equality, and spiritual awakening. We proudly introduce the international speaker, Mr. Scott Teitsworth, a lifelong student. He is a lifelong student of Indian philosophy in the lineage of Narayana Guru, and he is an editor of the English language books written by Guru Nitya Chaitanya and Nataraja Guru. He is the author of 4 published books of his own, and he and his wife, both of them, are highly involved in the learning, teaching process of Indian philosophy, especially Narayana Guru's philosophy, Guru Nitya Chaitanya's philosophy, and Nataraja Guru's philosophy. His wife is a poet, Deborah Buchanan. Everybody, all the people in Narayana Gurukula, both of them are very much familiar to all of us. And they have a Gurukula in Portland, Oregon, and they are the in charges of this ashram, where they have presented in-depth classes since 1978. Actually, his unity with Guru Nitya Chaitanya started in 1970s. Mr. Scott teaches online classes as well, and his extensive writings are available in his website also. Scott Teitsworth, along with his wife, D. Buchanan, Deborah Buchanan. Both of them are together managing this Portland Gurukula. And the weekly classes they are hosting on mystical philosophy and liberation psychology and alignment with modern scientific understandings. In addition, Mr. Scott hosts online classes on Bhagavad Gita, where participants are guided through its full depth, taking over a year to fully savor its transformative vision of yoga also. And his Bhagavad Gita commentary is his main contribution for human welfare. And other than that, some of the works of Guru Nitya Chaitanya was also he made in English in a readable and available manner. And 2 books he published are mainly on this commentary written on Bhagavad Gita. And many of the chapters he included for this, especially chapter 1 and 2, and the 11th chapter is included in these 2 books. He firmly grounded in the compassionate philosophy of Narayana Guru. It perfectly expresses the scientific spirit of self-inquiry and the goal of personal transformation. He once wrote about Guru Narayana that Narayana Guru, after all, was one of the history's greatest mystics, on a par with Shankara and Patanjali, who peacefully transformed an entire religion on the globe from a woefully oppressed feudal state into a progressive democracy. This is what he wrote about Narayana Guru. Sir, your deep and long-term experience with the Indian philosophy, especially based on Narayana Guru, we will be blessed with your talk today on the topic Narayana Guru's concept of knowledge as
Well, yeah, I think we have enough introduction, really. And I'm sorry about the doctor, but yeah. I figure probably the most interesting thing for most of the people who are tuned in is just a little of the history of how I related to Narayana Guru and his disciples. I have written, I think, really very good paper about this. If they do manage to put it together, I recommend reading it because I won't have time to go into it too much. What I did was I started with the concern that Sanatana Dharma is often a code word for fundamentalist Hinduism, which is totally unrelated to Narayana Guru's philosophy or anything that I ever picked up in a lifetime of association with Narayana Guru. And in an ideal sense, it's probably an okay idea, and we can talk about that later maybe, but I don't want to defend it. I want to make sure that that sort of exclusive my side is better than your side attitude isn't taken away from my talk at least, because that is the exact opposite of Vedanta, which is that everything springs out of a unity and forms a coin with 2 sides, basically. And if one of the sides thinks it's superior to the other side will feel the same way. And it becomes an explosive, polarized situation. So Narayana Guru wanted to have people trace themselves back to the unity to which we all belong, and not only humans, but all living creatures. And to this end, of course, he wrote some very complex, detailed philosophical works to teach that to people. And being a very, very intelligent person, it was not always easy to make out what he meant. So it took 3 gurus really to bring his vision down to our level. Narayana Guru had an incredible vision of truth and justice and universal equality. His disciple Nataraja Guru was able to look at his writings and form a coherent philosophy out of them. That it was implied there, but very few people could make it out. Unfortunately, Nataraja Guru expressed it in terms of mid-20th century intelligentsia and scientists and philosophers. It's coherent, but you have to work at it. The sad part is that those people led to Narayana Guru widely ignored for doing exactly what was needed of adding to Western intelligence, this concept of unified beings. Be that as it may, then Nataraja Guru's student Nitya Chaitanya Yati was able to distill that vision down to what it means to each human being, how you use it. What do you do in your life with this to make it a richer, more meaningful life? And he was a master at that. All 3 are titans, really, but without that last stage of what it means, basically. And I was fortunate, you're all aware probably that the study of Indian philosophy, they teach you Sanskrit, and then you study all of the history and learn how to, where everything fits together, and then you're ready. You're 80 years old and you're ready to kick the bucket. But I sort of decided not to do that. I just wanted to know, what does this mean? And working with Nitya Chaitanya Yati, I call him Nitya because that's what he let us call him. It was hard to understand. It was very complex. It's deep stuff, but I didn't want to have an academic interpretation. I just kept saying to myself, what does it mean? That was my motto, my mantra. What does this mean? And after about 25 years, it started to mean something really impressive. I mean, from the beginning, it was exciting. Nitya was the best teacher I have ever encountered, and I've had some good ones, but he was so charismatic, so excited about what he was telling us, and so thrilled that people were interested in it. It was absolutely an ecstatic experience to be in a class with him. And you could drift off, but I kept thinking, wow, what does this mean? How do we apply this? What does this do? And it started to accord in my mind with my studies in psychology and neuroscience and a number of other areas. And it really all holds together. Nietzsche would say there can't be 2 truths. There really has to be only one truth. It's not true if it's in disagreement with something else. Truth is completely encompassing. It's total. And so the process of studying was one of winnowing away the dualistic thinking of this is better than that, and this is wrong, this is right, and just going to, where does this start? Where does it come from? After about 5 years of, let's say, I very naively asked him to be my guru, and he never agreed to it. He just started criticizing me harshly and telling me what a fool I was, and kind of snubbing me and shocking my ego immediately from the very first minute. And I realized later, well, if I knew he was my guru and he was doing this because I was his disciple, I would have a defense. I could say, he's just doing this because it's going to teach me something. But I didn't have that. He didn't let me get that far. It just was like, wow, what's the matter with me that this really great guy is going to fall over me and tell me I'm too stupid to learn this, and fortune. But it took about 5 years for me to come out of the feeling of being punched to realizing this man has been giving me so much for all these years, and I'm not giving anything back. So I went and said, what can I do for you? Is there anything you would like me to do? And he happened to have a transcript of his Bhagavad Gita class. That's what he had been teaching mostly in Portland, was Bhagavad Gita, which is why I love it so much. But he said, well, I need this prepared for publication. And we actually did it as a kind of a Milarepa type test of if you made one mistake, you had to throw the whole page away and start over. There was no correcting, no fixing anything. And I had to make all the diacritic marks with an old-fashioned typewriter with moving around to put dots and stuff, and took days for each page. So anyway, I began working with him, and he was happy enough with that he gave me his next major project. And then others have come, and I wound up, it was a perfect thing for me. I knew grammar, I was good with words, and thinking, what does this mean all along? And whenever I'd come to a sentence that didn't make sense to me, I would think, what does this mean? This is my meditation, And sometimes it would take a week or more, and I'd do other things, but I keep thinking now, what is, especially with Nataraja Guru, what is he trying to say here? What's not working that I don't get this? And then at some point there would be a little light go on, and it's like, that's what it means. Okay, and if I just move this one word slightly, two words over, and realign those and use the same thing, it makes perfect sense suddenly. So that was really fun. And I spent 50 years doing that. So it had to be fun. I have to say that the result is fantastic. Some of the previous lecturers on this program have wondered how do we get across Narayana Guru's wisdom to people? There's this divide that people aren't getting it, and it's beautifully explained in the books of Nitya, Chaitanya, Yati, and very impressively explained in Nataraja Guru's interpretations. Those books are available, but they are not promoted. And that is really the height of tragedy to me, because when I've shared these books with people, not everybody, they're not for everybody, but the ones they are for, that you can see the light go on, and they're transformed by the experience and changed in an exceptionally positive way by what the books have to offer for them. Obviously, it's not everything, but it is. It's a huge door, and those books they're not available. So I was even wondering if the Open University has any of them in their library, or if there are classes being taught there on these books, because that's what I've been doing for now almost 50 years. My wife and I teach these books, usually one verse at a time or one short section at a time. We have now it's a Zoom meeting, but it was an in-person class with about a dozen people, more or less. And we take chunks of these books and we talk about them for an hour and a half. And we discover riches. There's so much that after all this time, they're continuing to inspire and lead us forward and get us excited about really high values. So if there's anything that you can do to make that more possible for people where you are, I hope you can. After spending my life basically producing these works that are so amazing, and then to see them languishing while silly little self-help books and trite meaningless crap gets peddled all over the place and is a bestseller. It's too bad. And here the human race is falling apart again, forgetting everything except the lust for greed and power and harming each other. These are the antidotes and that spirit. And I do praise you for having this webinar, because I presume that's part of the inspiration, is to remind caring people that we really want to take care of the world and contribute to it. And along that line, I have something to read. I brought a few things to read out, but a real favorite from Word of the Guru. Some of you undoubtedly know this. But and it really was very close to 100 years ago. Narayana Guru asked Nataraja Guru to make a plea on behalf of the world's ecology. And here's what he wrote. In Word of the Guru, that's Nataraja Guru's first book. He wrote it in the late 20s. I think it was published shortly after that. But it is one of the books that's available. Can you speak to the crowd? The Guru asked Nataraja Guru. I shall try to, replied the young man humbly. It would be a good thing, continued the Guru, to tell them about the excessive greed of human beings. Don't you think that the animal called man is worse than the rest of the animals in this respect? The desires of animals in the forest are safely controlled by natural instinct from all abnormal excesses. The elephant is simple and fat and does not need tonics or treatment to keep it so. The jackal hides in the woods all day and comes out only at night when all is quiet. It does not take much food, just a few fresh crabs and the clear stream water reflecting the moonlight to drink, and it is content. It enjoys its life with its nightly music, and you can see that it is none the worse for this sort of life. Its neck is as plump and glossy as a pillow. The animals have no exaggerated needs like man. Man trots about the earth as a veritable demon of destruction. As he marches, he carries behind him a trail of devastation. He cuts down the trees and blasts and bleeds into paleness the green beauty of nature for the sake of the plantations and smoky towns and factories which his unbridled desires necessitate. Not content with destruction on the surface, he tampers with the crust of the earth, making it weaker and weaker day by day, and he covers the surface with miles and miles of iron and coal. Man is terribly inconsistent. The state, which calls itself interested in humanity, would, for example, vehemently forbid even a man suffering from the worst form of skin disease to quit his miserable body. On the other hand, it will madly engage itself in wholesale manslaughter after due deliberation and in the holy name of altruism or religion. Man does not know what he does, although he prides himself on being more intelligent than the animals. It is all a mad, deluded rush. Oh, this man, he said, lapsing into wistfulness. He must lay waste. His greed can be satisfied only by the taking away of life. As the Guru repeated the word man, the youthful orator watched his composed features and could not but discover a distant tinge of sadness in his voice and in his venerable features. Man knows not what he does, the Guru repeated, and became silent for a moment. It would not have mattered so much, he continued, if the effect of man's misdeeds struck its blow only at mankind. But the innocent monkeys and birds in the forest have to forfeit their peaceful life because of man. The rest of nature would be thankful if, in the process of self-destruction, man would have the good sense to destroy himself if he must, alone, leaving the rest of creation at least to the peace which is its birthright. Those words are even more poignant today. But, I was Narayana Guru is known basically for one picture of that he put on a very fierce face for, and it took most of my life for me to get comfortable. I was terrified of that picture. I could feel it looking right through me and seeing all of my foibles. And later, with some biographies, Nancy Yielding's biography, and some other work that I'm fortunate people like to send me their efforts for comments and editing. So I've seen a lot of stories of Narayana Guru and found out how he had a great sense of humor. He was so kind. He never fought. He never had to argue. We know his line, ours is not to argue and win, but to know and let know, by which I think he meant share and share alike. But ours is not to argue and win, and he didn't. He was too clever for that. So that example is fantastic. that the most transcendent person that we know of didn't do it by fighting, but by persuasion and by casting an example of what it looked like. Yeah, along those to try and change the world for the better. And I brought in another short thing from Nitya's book that we called That Alone, the Core of Wisdom, is his explanation of Atmapadesha Shatakam, the 100 verses of instruction on the self. Undoubtedly, Narayana Guru's greatest work for self improvement, I guess, self correction. And I was fortunate to be in. He was in Portland, and we had rented a house. We had about 20 active people and some more people who had come cram into a tiny space and for his talks. But he said to us one day, "Are you ready to do something serious? To do serious spiritual?" Of course, we all said, "Yeah, let's do it." He said, "Okay, we'll do 100 days of the 100 verses. One a day. I'll give a lecture in the morning, and you will spend the day thinking about that and seeing how it applies to your life. And then we'll come back in the evening, and we will discuss it and see what we have learned." And at that time, he was jetting all over the planet, so it wasn't 100 days in a row. But when he was in Portland, it was 100 days. But he'd go to Moscow or Australia or Singapore or back to India, all over Europe, and even all over the US for lectures and meetings and things. So over about, I guess it was really about a year to get 100 days. But and then the transcripts sat in a box for 10 years. And then it was given to me, and it took 10 more years to turn it into the spirituality I have ever encountered. It's unbeatable. In it, Nitya became a full-fledged, deferring to Nataraja Guru. You can see he's trying to imitate him to some extent, and some of the flavor of Nataraja Guru is there, but by a dozen classes or so, it was all Nitya. He was flying high. He was so excited and brilliant. And if you've never read the book, you're missing something tremendous, I'll tell you. But this is a small excerpt that one of the many stories he told us there. Before he settled in with Nataraja Guru, Nitya spent a lot of time with Ramana Maharshi. And I have collected all of his writings about Ramana Maharshi on Nitya's website. In the read section, there are highlights from many of the books, or in this case, all of his writing about Ramana Maharshi, which is fascinating. But this is one of the things that always spoke to me. And this is Nitya's personal experience sitting with Ramana Maharshi. Many people used to ask Ramana Maharshi what they could do for the world. He always asked them, who is doing for whom? Thus, their focus was turned to their own selves. If I want to make you happy, I myself should be a happy person. If I am sad, how can I make you happy? to make you smile, I should first of all know how to smile. We have to discover the peace within ourselves, the joy within ourselves. This can be done only if the friendship that we cultivate with the spirit within becomes continuous, unbroken. This is like magic. Your world tomorrow won't be the same. You live in exaggeration. This world is not as bad as you paint it. What is madness? Madness is a positive or a negative exaggeration of the mind. If you see a thing in its natural value or worth, not more or less, it is a sane attitude, but we tend to exaggerate. So, working on ourselves is the best contribution we can make to the world. And that is Vedanta's first premise, right? Tattvamasi, you are the absolute. That's where you start. Until you really know that, don't bother other people with your ideas, okay? So anyway, we've killed the time. Those are both in my paper. I most of that paper, I know people didn't want to listen to me. I went through and had fun pulling out some of the best things that Nataraja Guru and Nitya, and in that one case, Narayana Guru, had to say, and I just clipped them all together. I have carte blanche approval to use whatever I want of the Gurukula's writing. So it's in the paper, all for everyone's benefit. And in fact, if the book doesn't come out for a while, maybe you can just send it to people. I don't know. There's lots more of that there. And I think now we have just time for maybe some discussion, and I'll listen to you, or maybe if you have a question, I'll see if I have an answer for you. How about?
Thank you, sir. It was a very illuminative talk that you have given, and I'm sure there will be a lot of questions that would have arisen in the minds of all those persons who have listened to your session. First and foremost, let me thank you for enlightening us on many of the aspects that we didn't think about very seriously. So a big thanks to you for that. Now the forum is open for discussion. I request everyone to participate so that the discussion becomes very lively, and we have several more takeaways from this session. Sudhir Babu sir, would you like to begin?
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
To those who are in India, and good morning to those who are in another time zone. Let me ask Mr. Scott. You have met Nataraja Guru and Nitya Chaitanya, Yati. And I have read them both. A difference in their attitude towards the Indianness. Narayana Guru was more scientific in the Western sense of the word. Yati was more, what do you call, emotional and attached to the Indianness. Have you ever felt a difference in attitude of both of them towards this. In Nataraja Guru's the book, The Absolute, we see an effort to combine the Western scientific findings with that of the Indian philosophers or the Upanishadic darshanas. Is it two things, or are these two things can be compared? The Western scientific method is totally different from that of the Eastern method, the philosophical method, the method of the spirituality. But Narayana Guru was trying for that. Could you comment on that?
Well, I think both of them were. Nitya eagerly read a lot of psychology, but also physics and all the sciences. He was always alert to more, and if you really look at it, science is science, and it's practiced in the same way and with plenty of exchange of ideas. So the one thing that, though, I think Nitya loved India more than just about anybody, and he loved showing it to us. And he was deeply versed in its history and psychology, basically. He never, in India, it was always underlined that we are one species. Now, I don't see that. There's certainly a very different tone. In my paper, Nataraja Guru managed, but Nitya provided what it means, what the value of this is, and he communicated that to us. So Nitya was the Ananda aspect, but the three all go together. And actually, last night before I went to bed, I thought of a simple example. It's like Narayana Guru had invented a bicycle, the bicycle. Before there was a bicycle, he invented it. Or it might have looked like Shankara's bicycle, but he invented it. But nobody knew what to do with it. But Nataraja Guru studied it for a while, and he speculated on what you could do with that. And he suggested that you could do a lot with it, but he thought that each person should figure it out for themselves. It was good for their brains if they figured it out, and a guru didn't tell them what to do. But Nitya did figure it out, and he thought it was fair to explain it to people. So he told us how to ride a bicycle and where you could go with it. And yet, it's still up to us to get on the bicycle and go for a ride. So it's really a 4-part deal. All of them essential. But thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sudhir Babu sir. I request
Thank you
others
very
also to join. In the meantime, I have a small query from your talk, from the initial part of your talk. You are quoting Swami Nitya Chaitanya Yati and stating that he had this concept that, of course, truth is only singular. That is, you can only have one truth. But these days, there is a lot of relativity being attributed to truth. How would Sri Narayana Guru have reacted to this kind of a scenario? There is a lot of statement as to my truth is not your truth. That is the kind of scenario that leads to wars and many other conflicts across the world. So can we have a solution where this relativity of truth is somehow brought to the minimum through the teachings of Sri Narayana Guru?
Again, I think we have to give Nataraja Guru credit for using the Cartesian coordinates to describe our world in terms of a horizontal and vertical aspect. It's defined in several ways. It's really too much to go into, but you can take it as the horizontal is space or present, and the vertical is time or the evolutionary unfoldment of a process. And it's fascinating what you can do to understand the mind from that. But there are truths that are vertical and truths that are horizontal. There are truths that are eternal, and there are truths that are pertaining to facts and details of the present situation or the world around us. And where the arguments all come is in the horizontal truths. You know, we all think this group is important, or that group is important, or this aspect is important. But within the vertical, all of those things, there is a kind of truth there, and it's not specified. The minute it's specified into this is what it is, it becomes horizontal. So that truth is accessed by the heart, by an intuitive connection. And I think that's what these gurus are talking about. Don't get caught up in doing this, doing that, performing this puja, or, you know, standing on your head for 6 days, or whatever somebody tells you is the way to get enlightenment. It's in you already. You have that, and you need to connect to it through your own intuition, your own love, say. As soon as you say, well, here's what it means, I get to take over your country, or you know, I get to kick you out of my country, or whatever. Those are horizontal truths, and they're certainly they don't hold up in any eternal sense. So what we're looking for is things that are truly true, as opposed to things that are relatively true. Like, you know, this is my cup of water. That is true, but it really doesn't mean anything. But I love water. Now that is a truth and I need it. That's a truth that is eternal. So that's the short version. There's a lot to it, but that's a very good question.
Thank you so much.
So we could, maybe people are embarrassed about all these good questions, but you can ask lousy questions too. And we only have a few more minutes. So one lousy question would get us out of here.
Sure. Yes, ma'am. Sharina, ma'am, please go ahead.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
I'm Sharina. I'm Muni Narayana Prasad's disciple. I'm associated to the Gurukula for the last 10 years, but I have seriously started studying only past 1 year. So I came across this statement. This is knowledge, the concept of same and other in Atmavadesha Shadaka. And it says that the concept of this is all encompassing and all inclusive. And is knowledge is the other part of it. So whenever we make a statement, this is knowledge, that this part is the all-encompassing part, and the is knowledge is the byproduct of the concept of this. Is it true, sir?
Well, yeah, it's relatively true. No, good question. But knowledge is another one of those. Knowledge is like truth in that I think there's an eternal aspect of it, and then there's the horizontal version. And it's tricky in the Gurukula because Narayana Guru used knowledge primarily in the vertical or the holistic sense. When he speaks of arivu and knowledge, he is he means the knowledge that encompasses everything. And but for most of us, we distinguish wisdom and knowledge as wisdom being that kind of knowledge and knowledge being facts, and that 2 + 2 = 7 or whatever it is. Those are knowledge. It's academic knowledge. And really it's, I think it's confusing because that's what we're brought up to think about as knowledge, is more facts. And the sad part is that then we think if we have the right amount of those facts, then suddenly we'll be wise. But wisdom is actually not created by an accumulation of knowledge or facts. It's something that's directly experienced. So I can understand you having a question and being a little confused about that, but what I often remind myself of is that not being sure of the answer is actually more helpful than thinking you know the answer to something. So your questioning and your head scratching and your curiosity is being stimulated by this, and that's actually a very good thing. Don't ever stop. Don't ever feel like you finally get it all. Which again, that's something we learned from going to school. We finally graduate from the 4th grade or the 5th form or whatever, and we've made it. But that's nothing. It's just another delusion that someday it's all going to be enough, and you'll graduate and everybody will clap and give you a diploma. It's just an ongoing life, and it's hopefully full of really good knowledge and lots of this.
Madam, your hand is still raised, so do you have another question? Anyone else? Okay, so now I would request my colleague, Dr. Yati Jaljakumari, Regional Director, RC ISOL, to come over. Madam, you are online? Yes, ma'am, please.
Sir, I'm online, but some problems
I know.
there with my throat. It is.
Okay. So I think Madam is not feeling well. For the past 1 week, she has been having high fever and a lot of throat-related issues. So maybe there is some problem in her speaking out. So I think we have had a wonderful day, a wonderful evening today. And definitely the thoughts that have been put forth by our very eminent and erudite speaker, Scott Teitsworth, are worth pondering upon. And I'm sure there will be a lot more inputs in the paper that Sir will be circulating to all of us. So from the point of view of discussion and the thought process that has been generated today, I feel there have been a few significant areas which I feel will come up more for discussion in the future sessions. One is the essentiality of truth and the oneness of truth. That was one aspect which Sir had introduced to all of us in the first few lines of his thought-provoking speech. Then there was a suggestion about how to make life meaningful and go ahead with it. And Sir had, in fact, taken the lines out of Sri Nitya Chaitanya Yati to make his point. And there are other aspects also, like how the open university system. That was an interesting take, because that made me think about our open university and the open university system that we have in India as well. We do not have a major collection of, to be very frank, about Sri Narayana Guru, or in fact about the very eminent scholars like Nitya Chaitanya or Nataraja Guru, or people like that. And that is a major drawback. Maybe with your help, we can definitely develop one in one of our regional centers. I think Sri Trivandrum, we can have a small corner where we can have some books and in fact some material related to these very erudite scholars. And I'll in fact request all my friends who are assembled here today to help us in that process, so that the ideas of these very great scholars do permeate to others as well. So that is, thank you for that thought, Sir, because till now we hadn't thought very seriously about this, but this is one of the major outcomes of this particular session. We should in fact go ahead and create a repository so that others also come to know about these great scholars. Then one of the very prominent points that you mentioned in this particular talk was about Guru's take on ecology and the global concept of sustainable development assets. That was very interesting for me. And I'm sure my colleague, Dr. Jaljakumari, will also share this thought process because we are running a MOOC on sustainable development on the Swayam portal of Government of India. And there, many of these sustainable development issues are being dealt with. So this is one area that really interested me. And Sri Narayana Guru's statement that man is the most dangerous of all animals is in fact shared by many of us as well, because other animals do not have the greed that man possesses, and that is one of the major reasons why we have a lot of problems in the world today. And definitely understanding Guru's thoughts will help us in eliminating many of the ills that the human society actually faces. Then this one more statement really made me think a lot. That is, you had quoted Ramana Maharshi in this regard. If I have to make you happy, I have to be happy myself. That's a very interesting thought, because normally many of us do not understand this very significant principle. If you have to contribute anything to the world or to others as such, you yourself have to possess that. So that is a wonderful thought that you presented, and that is something that we all need to ponder upon very seriously as such. And of course, you have mentioned various other aspects that is all available in the recording, so I will not be repeating all that. And let me also state that this particular session is also going live on our YouTube channel. So many other people will be watching this program on our YouTube channel as well. So thank you, sir. Thank you for educating us on very many important aspects related to Sri Narayana Guru and other gurus as well. And I'm sure all our audience has enjoyed your thoughts of wisdom. And I'm sure you will be able to join us for the future sessions as well. That will be a great contribution that you can make to help us make this particular webinar series a success. And I hope, and as such, I will be hoping that we can meet more often, at least in the virtual space, so that you can enlighten us and there can be a sharing of thought process as well. I also thank all the persons who have taken time out of their very busy schedule to join us today in this evening webinar session. Without your contribution and presence, we couldn't have thought of having this webinar series as well. But week after week, you are all coming and joining us for these sessions, and that's a great thing, and that encourages us a lot. And finally, before you all leave, kindly do fill up the feedback form as well as the feedback attendance form that is pinned on the comment box. So kindly do access it and definitely let us know your thoughts about this webinar series. So thank you all, and we'll meet very soon with another session. And Scott sir, we request you to join us for all the future sessions. And I also request other participants to.
I'd like to
Time constraint is
in the morning here. So I'm not very flexible with that. I'm sound asleep when you're having your things. Otherwise, I would love to do it. I'll see. We have one student from UK who comes to our class and gets up at 3:30 for it. But I'm old. I think sleep is one of the great spiritual adventures of humanity. So anyway, but I'll try. My heart goes with you, and keep up the good work.
Yeah, surely we'll meet when you come to India, sir.
Okay. Ciao.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
I don't even know how this.
And please join us for all the future sessions as well.